What if I told you that America's longest-serving president couldn't walk? Picture this. It's 1933. America is drowning in the Great Depression. Banks are failing. Unemployment has reached 25%. Families are starving. The nation desperately needs a strong leader, someone who can stand tall and guide them through the darkness. And who steps forward? A man who can't even stand at all. Franklin Delano Roosevelt rolled into the White House in a wheelchair, hiding a secret that would have destroyed most political careers. Yet he became one of the most powerful leaders in world history, guiding America through its two greatest crises, the Great Depression and World War II. This is the story of how a man who lost the use of his legs taught an entire nation to walk again. The fall of a rising star. In August 1921, Franklin Delano Roosevelt had everything. At just 39 years old, he was a rising political superstar. He'd served as Assistant Secretary of the Navy under President Woodrow Wilson. He'd run for vice president in 1920. His future seemed limitless. The presidency was within reach. Then, during a family vacation at Campobello Island in New Brunswick, Canada, everything changed in a single day. After helping fight a forest fire and taking a swim in the cold Bay of Fundy, Roosevelt went to bed feeling unusually tired. By the next morning, he couldn't move his left leg. Within days, paralysis had spread throughout his lower body. The diagnosis was devastating: poliomyelitis, polio. The disease ravaged his body. This man who had been athletic, vigorous, and commanding was suddenly helpless, unable to perform the most basic functions without assistance. Doctors told him he would never walk again. For most people, this would have been the end of the story. For Roosevelt, it was just the beginning. The hidden struggle. What followed were 7 years of grueling, painful rehabilitation. Roosevelt refused to accept his fate. He tried every treatment imaginable: exercises, massages, experimental therapies. He spent countless hours in the warm waters of Warm Springs, Georgia, where he eventually established a rehabilitation center for other polio patients. But here's what most Americans never knew. Roosevelt never actually recovered the use of his legs. Instead, he learned to fake it. With the help of heavy steel braces locked at the knee, a cane, and the strong arm of a son or aide, Roosevelt taught himself to create the illusion of walking. He would pivot his hips and swing his locked legs forward in a carefully choreographed movement that looked almost natural from a distance. It was exhausting. It was painful. Every step required tremendous upper body strength and concentration. A simple walk across a room left him drenched in sweat, and he did it all while smiling. The conspiracy of silence. Roosevelt understood something crucial. In 1920s and 1930s America, disability was seen as weakness. A paralyzed man could never be elected president. So he made a decision that would define his political career. He would hide his disability from the American public. It wasn't just Roosevelt's secret. It was a conspiracy involving the Secret Service, the press corps, and even the American people who saw him in person. The unwritten rule was simple: no photographs of the president in his wheelchair, no images of him being carried, no pictures of him struggling. And remarkably, the press cooperated. In an era before the 24-hour news cycle and social media, journalists who traveled with Roosevelt honored this unspoken agreement. Of approximately 35,000 photographs taken of FDR during his presidency, only 2 show him in his wheelchair. When Roosevelt gave speeches, he would be positioned at the podium before audiences arrived. When he traveled, his car would pull up to a private entrance. His wheelchair was disguised to look like an ordinary chair. His leg braces were hidden under his trousers. The American public saw a strong, confident leader. They had no idea that behind the scenes, he couldn't walk to the bathroom without help. Rising from the ashes. In 1928, Roosevelt made his political comeback, winning the governorship of New York. 4 years later, in the depths of the Great Depression, he ran for president. His opponent, President Herbert Hoover, never directly mentioned Roosevelt's disability. It was considered ungentlemanly. But whisper campaigns spread rumors that Roosevelt was too sick, too weak, too disabled to handle the presidency. His response was brilliant. He campaigned relentlessly, traveling over 13,000 miles and giving dozens of speeches. He projected energy, optimism, and strength. When he accepted the Democratic nomination, he broke tradition by flying to the convention in Chicago, demonstrating that he was a man of action, not an invalid. On March 4, 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt took the oath of office. Standing at the podium, with his son's arm for support, he delivered one of the most famous lines in American history. "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." The irony was profound. Here was a man who had faced his deepest fear, complete physical helplessness, telling the nation not to be afraid. Leading from a wheelchair. What Roosevelt accomplished over the next 12 years is staggering. He fundamentally transformed the relationship between the American government and its citizens. The New Deal programs he created, Social Security, unemployment insurance, banking regulations, public works projects, pulled America out of the Great Depression and created the modern social safety net. He did this while managing his disability every single day. While other presidents could pace the Oval Office or take walks to clear their heads, Roosevelt was confined to his wheelchair. While others could stand at a podium for hours, Roosevelt had to carefully manage his energy and positioning. Yet he never let his disability slow him down. He held more press conferences than any president before him, 998 in total. He pioneered the fireside chat, using radio to speak directly to the American people, his warm, confident voice reaching into millions of homes. When World War II erupted, Roosevelt led the Allied coalition against Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. He met with Winston Churchill and Joseph Stalin. He oversaw the largest military mobilization in American history. He made the decision to develop the atomic bomb, all from a wheelchair. The ultimate irony. Here's the remarkable part of Roosevelt's story. His disability may have actually made him a better leader. Polio taught Roosevelt empathy. Before his illness, he had been somewhat arrogant, a privileged aristocrat who had never really struggled. Paralysis humbled him. It gave him a deep understanding of suffering, of vulnerability, of what it meant to need help. His personal struggle mirrored the nation's struggle during the Depression. He knew what it felt like to be knocked down and have to fight your way back up. When he told Americans that better days were ahead, they believed him because he had lived it. Roosevelt's disability also gave him patience and determination. The years of painful rehabilitation taught him that progress comes slowly through persistent effort. This mindset shaped his approach to solving the Depression, trying different programs, learning from failures, never giving up. And perhaps most importantly, his hidden struggle taught him the power of perception and morale. He understood that leadership wasn't just about policy, it was about inspiring confidence. His constant optimism, his jaunty cigarette holder, his infectious smile, these weren't just personality traits. They were deliberate choices by a man who knew that sometimes appearing strong is the first step to becoming strong. The secret revealed. Roosevelt died on April 12, 1945, just months before the end of World War II. He had served as president for 12 years and 39 days, longer than anyone before or since. Only after his death did the full extent of his disability become widely known. Americans were shocked to learn that their powerful wartime leader had been paralyzed. Many felt deceived. But over time, the revelation transformed Roosevelt's legacy. Far from diminishing his accomplishments, his disability made them even more impressive. He hadn't succeeded despite being paralyzed. In many ways, he succeeded because of it. Today, there's a statue of Roosevelt at his memorial in Washington, D.C., sitting in his wheelchair. It was added in 2001, after years of debate. Some argued it was disrespectful to show him as disabled. Others insisted it was essential to show the truth. The wheelchair won, because Roosevelt's wheelchair isn't a symbol of weakness. It's a symbol of unstoppable determination. Your turn to stand. Franklin D. Roosevelt's story isn't just history, it's a blueprint for overcoming impossible odds. Think about the obstacles in your own life. Maybe you're facing a health crisis. Maybe you've lost your job. Maybe you're struggling with depression, addiction, or failure. Maybe you feel like you can't go on. Roosevelt's message to you is simple. You can. He couldn't walk, but he moved a nation. He couldn't stand on his own, but he stood up to Hitler. He was paralyzed, but he was unstoppable. What's your excuse? The challenges you face are real. The pain is real. The fear is real. But so is your capacity to overcome them. Roosevelt proved that our greatest limitations can become our greatest strengths if we refuse to give up. Stop waiting until you're ready. Stop waiting until conditions are perfect. Stop waiting until you're strong enough. Start now. Start where you are. Start with what you have. Take one step forward today, even if you have to fake it, even if you need help, even if you're terrified. Because that's what Roosevelt did every single day for 12 years. And if a paralyzed man in a wheelchair can lead the free world through its darkest hour, you can handle whatever you're facing. The only thing you have to fear is fear itself. Now get up and prove it.